so exciting when it does that. It announces to me that the recording is in progress. Oh, it does. It announces to everyone. So you've been warned. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to start, of course, with a Bismillah. This is a melody called Dog Days Bismillah that is from our friend Farhad, because we love him so much. There are at least 2 different melody lines to it, so we'll sing one of them for a while. You can weave in the second one if you want, or you can stick with the first one. And lots of Bismillah, 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 Ir-Rahman, Ir-Rahim. That is beginning in the atmosphere, in the essence of the one being, the all-pervading reality. Ir-Rahman, Ir-Rahim, the infinitely ever-flowing, merciful, and compassionate presence of the one. Bismillah, 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 Rahman, Rahim. Bismillah, 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 Rahman, Rahim. Bismillah, 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 Bismillah. Bismillah, I'll say the invocation. We're going to say it in English, but at the same time, you can say it in whatever language you wish. But at least the group process on this thing, we're just going to do it in English. So whatever works for your heart. You ready? Toward the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Amen. So today we're going to visit the prayer psalm, and I'll put it in the chat window for you, but I have to do it in 2 different sections because it's too big. It's not too big, it's exactly the right size, but it doesn't all go in the chat window at the same time. Okay, I think if I start it here, I'll be able to do it in 2 sections. All right, so there's the first section, but just a moment while I put the other half of it on the clipboard, so I'm ready to put it in here for you. I don't do movements for it, but if you do, you're welcome to do the movements that feel good for you. Are you ready? Praise be to thee, most supreme God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-pervading, the only being. Take us in thy parental arms. Raise us from the denseness of the earth. Thy beauty do we worship. To thee do we give willing surrender. Most merciful and compassionate God, the idealized Lord of the whole humanity, thee only do we worship, and towards thee alone we aspire. Open our hearts towards thy beauty. Illuminate our souls with divine light. O thou, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, all-powerful creator, sustainer, judge, and forgiver of our shortcomings. Lord God of the East and of the West, of the worlds above and below, and of the seen and unseen beings. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls. Use us for the purpose that thy wisdom chooseth, and guide us on the path of thine own goodness. Draw us closer to thee every moment of our life, until in us be reflected thy grace, thy glory, thy wisdom, thy joy, and thy peace. Amen. Okay, we're going to touch into the Mahamudra, the breath practice of Murshid Sam, the real Buddhist practice, not theory, not concept, real practice. So first just breathing and knowing that you're breathing. Are you still breathing and knowing that you're breathing? And then breathing a long breath and simply knowing that you're breathing a long breath. And now breathing a short breath and just knowing that you're breathing a short breath. before we hyperventilate, breathing a heavy breath and knowing that you're breathing a heavy breath. And now breathing a light breath and knowing that you're breathing a light breath. And now breathing a long, light breath. And with a long, light breath, breathing in all the love you can hold. And breathing out all the love you can give. Breathing in all the love you can hold. And breathing out all the love you can give. And now, still breathing a long, light breath, breathing in all the joy you can hold, and breathing out all the joy you can give. Breathing in all the joy you can hold, breathing out all the joy you can give. Did it make you smile? We're not done yet. Just checking on your smile status. And now breathing in all the peace you can hold, and breathing out all the peace you can give. Breathing in all the peace you can hold. Breathing out all the peace you can give. And then you can release any particular concentration and just come back to your own natural breath. Thank you, friends. So we're continuing our explorations of breath practice, of the different aspects of breath. And for the last, 3 months or maybe 4 months, I'm not sure, we've been working our way gradually through the breath module training system that has a whole bunch of different teachings and breath practices. And so last month, we just started exploring all of the 5 aspects of the breath, and then we did an exercise just around the reach of the breath. Probably some of you definitely were not on that call, and the rest of you have probably forgotten. But it was the one where I started out in our contemporary Sufi way of extending the breath just to your computer screen, because it's probably the thing that's the closest in front of you, and just feeling like you can touch that with your breath, and then extending it to something beyond that, and something outside, and something out of sight, and then around the world to poke you in the back of the head. And so we're going to be continuing on into the other aspects of the 5. So here's the little summary for you. There are 5 aspects of breath, right? I said that 3 times already. The first one is reach. That is how far the breath goes. The second one is depth. It's how fully it comes in. The next one is volume, which is more about the capacity. We'll read more and share some more practice around that in a moment. But the third one is volume. The fourth is centralization, which you could also say focus or chosen direction. And then the last one is rhythm. Okay? Reach, depth, volume, centralization, rhythm. So today we're going to start by, well, we already started with all these other things. We're going to move on with a short reading from Pir O Murshid Hazrat Inayat Khan, who happens to be my Sufi hero. And this is from Riyazat, and Riyazat means practices. So you'll see this in a lot of the different papers, and also Murshid Sam and Pir Moinuddin's commentary about the papers. So every time we see the word Riyazat, it's Ryazat, and it means practices. It means actually putting these things into a particular form of spiritual practice. So it includes wazifa and qasab, the breath concentrations, zikr, fikr, different forms of meditation. All these things are included in that word. So this is from the Gitas, which is the second set of papers. Most of you know these things, but I see a few people on here that probably don't know them. So for those of you who are bored with the redundancy, I apologize. And for those of you who are new to it, you're welcome. So in the system of teachings that Pir O Murshid Inayat Khan organized very carefully and meticulously for us, he said that the first things, before someone is initiated into the Sufi path, they should be given the Gathikas for candidates. That's the first set of papers that is about 74 pages. That is a big overview. It sweeps all over the place with what is Sufism, what is this path, what's the path of initiation, what's the Sufi perspectives about the world, about other religions, about how humanity is evolving, what is the nature of God, and all kinds of things. So Gathikas, that's the introduction for people who are just interested in Sufism. Then after someone is initiated, the first set of papers and practices that are given are the gathas, which means sacred writings and or sacred teachings. It's not necessarily transcribed. So the gathas. The next set is the gitas, and then it's sangatas, and then sangitas. And I don't know any teachers, particularly in the Ruhaniyat, that go through all of them in that order, but that's the instruction that Murshid gave about how we should be approaching the teachings. So this is from, all that to say, the title of the piece that I'm about to read to you is from the Gitas, second set of papers, series 2 in the Gitas, number 1, and it's called Fikr. And I should say, because I don't think he actually says in this reading, that fikr is silent concentration, that on a particular thing. So it isn't concentrating on spaciousness. It is concentrating on a chosen phrase or a concept, a quality, and keeping that on the breath. So when we do, particularly those of us who do dances of universal peace and singing, moving zikr, every time we say on the breath, and we keep going, moving, singing inside, not through our vocal cords anymore, that's fikr. Okay, so continuing on the breath. Here's the reading. The breath is the current which is established between all planes of man's existence. Its current runs from the life unseen to the life on the surface. This uniting spirit and matter both. When the breath leaves the material being of man, then comes what man calls death, which shows the breath is the sign of life and life itself. And its contact with the body keeps the body alive, and its contact with the mind keeps the mind alive. But neither body nor mind are life. If there is any sign of life we can trace on the surface, it is no other than the breath. Therefore, Sufis take the breath as the means of getting what they want from the life unseen to the life on the surface. Also, they make it a means of sending what they wish from the life external to the life within. Did you get it? You want to hear it again? Okay, here it is again. For the benefit of those who might be seeing this recording later, I saw several people nodding, so I'm reading it again. The breath is the current which is established between all planes of man's existence. Good? Its current runs from the life unseen to the life on the surface, thus uniting spirit and matter both. Still good? From the unseen to what's on the surface, which means to what is seen, uniting spirit and matter. When the breath leaves the material being of man, then comes what man calls death, which shows that breath is the sign of life and life itself. Still good? Its contact with the body keeps the body alive. The breath's contact with the body keeps the body alive. Its contact with the mind keeps the mind alive. But neither body nor mind are life. If there is any sign of life we can trace on the surface, it is no other than the breath. Therefore, Sufis take the breath as the means of getting what they want from the life unseen to the life on the surface. Also, they make it a means of sending what they wish from the life external to the life within. Good? Working on it, right? Integrating, digesting, breathing. Hopefully breathing, right? Breathing. Okay. So we're going to do a practice that is a simple awareness of working with the depth of the breath. So before you do anything, just notice where your breath is right now. Just what's true. No judgment. No need to change anything. How deep is your breath naturally? Already, by drawing attention to it, it gets a little deeper. That's naturally what happens, and that's okay. But we're not trying to force anything. We're just looking. Where's the breath? What's the depth of the breath right now? And then invite the breath to be deeper. Notice that doesn't necessarily mean longer. That when we started with the Mahamudra practice of Murshid Sam, I don't know if he would like us calling it the practice of Murshid Sam. It wasn't his, but the practice that he led a lot and talked about a lot. That when we talked about length of the breath, making the breath long, but long doesn't necessarily mean deep. So inviting the breath to be deep. And noticing where in your physical experience, you notice the breath when it's as deep as you can invite it to be. Don't hurt yourself, but just inviting the breath to be deeper. And then see, what are the deepest parts of your being? And see if you can invite the breath into the deepest parts of your being. Inviting the breath into the depth of your own heart, into the depth of your own mind. And Murshid said that the heart is the depth of the mind, and that the mind is the surface of the heart. But we can feel them as distinct things, even if they are the same. Inviting the breath into the depth of the mind, into the depth of the heart, into the depth of the body. Hi, Nadira. Deep breath. And then see if you can invite the breath to penetrate each particle of the body. Can you feel what that means, to invite the breath to penetrate each particle of your being? I love it. I'm sure you can hear the dog lapping water right now, and I'm seeing in my mind's eye the water going into the dog's body as a metaphor for the breath going into our bodies. That the water is going to go through and penetrate every part of her body. Every particle of her body will be touched by the water that she just drank in, maybe sort of inhaled. So breathing in as deeply as we can, inviting the breath to penetrate every aspect of our beings. Okay. And we're going to go immediately into the next aspect of the breath, which is the volume or the scope that you can see. Like if you can imagine thinking about it as scope is nice, because you can see, like with your vision, that you can have a very narrow scope or you can have a very wide scope. And so working with the volume of the breath is about widening that vision and where the breath can get to. So the quality around the volume is about vitality, about inviting life energy fully into our beings and letting the breath fill our beings. So now it's not about penetrating, it's not about depth, it's about expanse. Does that make sense as a distinction? Okay, so working with the volume of the breath, we'll look at completely filling the lungs using that whole capacity of the breath, and then completely emptying the lungs. With each breath, you invite the fullness of the breath, the absolute fullness of the breath, and then the absolute emptiness. Because from the greatest emptiness, we can experience the greatest fullness. As soon as I start doing this, I want to straighten up my shoulders. I want to sit up taller or even stand up. If you're in a place to be able to do that, you might want to stand up to invite even more volume. I'm actually going to do that. I'll move you up here. All right. Full volume, whole body completely filled with breath, and then completely emptied of breath. So opening the chest, the shoulders, the lungs. Murshid says, even with wide nostrils, we want to invite the breath in so fully. You don't even have to do it with your hands. You can just do it. You have muscles in your face, so you can expand your own nostrils to make your breath even wider. And then as you are feeling yourself completely filled with the breath, and then completely emptied, as it's filling, see if you can make that into a sphere around yourself, a circle that expands out, that is beyond your physical body, that is infusing your atmosphere with breath. One of the practices around expanding the volume of the breath is seeing the back of the heart and across your back as wings unfurling with the breath, so that they can open wide and then embrace everything. Opening wide and then embracing everything. It's expanding and strengthening your own living magnetism. In more modern language, we might think of that as charisma. It's like the magic of your presence that is strengthened and brightened through the fullness of the breath. And then into that vast space, that full volume, I invite you to tune back into Murshid Sam's practice, not his practice, the Mahamudra practice, to invite the qualities of love or joy or peace or healing, strength, compassion, courage, to infuse your own living atmosphere in a direction that you wish. Okay, enough full breathing for me. I'm going to sit back down. Okay, friends. Did you get it? Can you feel the difference between the depth and the volume? Okay. I'm going to, do I pause the recording? I'd like to hear from you, your thoughts and reflections so far, how the practices feel, how the readings are landing. I'm not sure if I should pause the recording or just let you all show up on there if you want to. I'm just going to leave it. You can show up on there if you want to. So, oh, hello, Ame. Nice to have you with us. Hello, Svancha. Good to have you with us. Anyone else pop in since I said hello to everybody? Okay. Reflections, thoughts, feelings, experiences of the breath so far.
I was thinking, as I get older, I'm more and more interested in being healthy, and it just struck me can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. It just struck me how powerfully healing the breath must be, if it can go deep into every particle of the body, and if it can expand my essence, my presence, then that must be the core of healing.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sophia. I think Murshid would agree with you.
I guess sorry.
Go ahead.
The practical question would be how to fit it into or how to coordinate a healing practice, or how often to do it, or, how to plan it.
every day, all day, every day, with every breath, all day, every day. uh, More specifically, Murshid would say do the healing breaths at least once a day. Once a day is normal, and best if it's early in the morning, but whenever you can do it is great. And Murshid would say that if you have need of it, you can do it twice a day. And if you're in serious trouble, you can do it 3 times a day. That would be for the elemental purification breaths. So that's going through 5 breaths of earth, water, fire, and air. And you can get Sufi teachers into a boxing ring to duke it out over whether ether should be included on a daily basis or not. I'm just kidding. Sufi teachers would never fight with each other. I was joking about that. But there are different instructions and beliefs about that. Also, Murshid is very clear that even doing breath practices once a day is all that is needed to get the clock of the system of the body and the mind and the heart in right order so that it will run automatically for 24 hours. That was his way of describing it, like winding a clock. Certainly, you could use the not Murshid Sam practice of the Mahamudra of breathing and just knowing that you're breathing and touching into these different aspects of breath. What's gorgeous about that practice when you go, okay, first I'm just breathing, then I'm breathing a long breath and then a short breath. It means, and it shows you that you are in charge of your own breath. You can grab hold of your breath and shape it to your will anytime you want. Yeah. Thank you, Sophia. Other thoughts, reflections, questions? Faces to be made. Anjali, are you opening a jar? Oh. It looked like a... Oh, she's writing. That's your writing face. Awesome. Deep concentration. Okay. Other things so far? Going once? We're going to read some more. Oh, Anjali, go ahead, friend.
I love that we can control the breath and the power of that, because when you're stressed out or you're freaked out or you're running around doing your life, and you can so get out of your body and out of present time. And if we can remember that the breath can bring us right back to right here, right now, it's just really, what a great reminder. So thank you for that.
All the time. Thank you. There are all of the things of Alim, I see you. Just a moment. Let me say one sentence and then we'll come to you, my friend. There are all of these things of peace is only ever one breath away. Love is only ever one breath away. A complete change in your experience is only ever one breath away. Always. You can fill in any word you want in there. Also, if you want, anger is only one breath away. And tragedy is only one breath away. Drama, one breath or less if you want. But really, like anything. So we have so much power and so much possibility for mastery, for self-awareness, and for really grabbing hold of our own lives through the breath. Yeah. Thank you, Anjali. Alim.
Alim, hello. It's all can be a choice with the breath. Early on, the first thing you said maybe was about the breath connecting us to all planes of existence. Planes of existence?
Yeah.
Could you speak to the planes of existence?
Yeah, it's the next reading we're going to go to, so I'm going to let Murshid talk about it. But yes. All right, so knowing that I'm going to come back to that as soon as I start reading again, are there any other thoughts, questions, reflections y'all would like to put in here before we go to something else? Well, something the same, but...
I was interested in, it was along the lines of what Alim said too, but it's like the going from the unseen to the seen. What does that mean? Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, are we ready for that? All right, here we go. Back to Murshid as if we ever left. We just never leave. It's so great. Okay, so where we were last time was, therefore, Sufis take the breath as the means of getting what they want from the life unseen to the life on the surface. Also, they make it a means of sending what they wish from the life external to the life within. The breath may be considered as a lift, which is his word for an elevator, as a lift. Maybe he meant something else, but I think he meant an elevator. Where was I? I distracted myself with my own commentary. The breath may be considered as a lift that can take you to any floor up and any floor down. By the help of breath, you can send your thought anywhere and to any plane and bring about desired results. In breath abides all the mystery there is. The Sufis' object being self-realization by the ideal of God, they work for its attainment by the means of the breath, which they call fikr. And an ideal so attained becomes their property, their kingdom forever. Do you want to hear any of that again? Oh, I thought maybe. Okay. I got a thumbs up from Virginia, you guys. Okay. Let's see. Where were we? The breath may be considered as a lift that can take you to any floor up and any floor down. By the help of breath, you can send your thought anywhere and to any plane and bring about desired results. In breath abides all the mystery there is. The Sufi's object being self-realization by the ideal of God, they work for its attainment by the means of the breath, which they call fikr. And an ideal so attained becomes their property, their kingdom forever. Good? He's not explaining what the different planes are right now. He's just saying that you can get to any of them you want through the breath. Okay, so we're not going to go into systems, and there are written systems. You can find all of the different names for different levels of consciousness, different levels of the nafs, different levels of the soul, and but we're not going to go into that today. Maybe that'll be like after we get through all of our breath module training practices, then we'll come back to that. Would that be fun? Yeah, that probably would be fun. So the important things here are this particular sentence where he says, the Sufi's object being, are you immediately piqued? Are you like, oh, what's the Sufi's object? What is it? Yeah, he says, the Sufi's object being self-realization by the ideal of God. Self-realization by the ideal of God. I want to just keep saying it until it sinks in for all of us. Like, maybe if we say it like hundreds of times, we'll get no, because it's about the practice. Self-realization. Are we good with that? We're always like, yeah, we want to be self-realized. We want to understand, perceive ourselves as cleanly and beautifully with as much integrity and as much mastery as possible. How do we do that? Through the ideal of God. Which means that we are constantly trying to weave this dance between the external and the internal, where we go, am I God? Well, yes. Do I feel like it right now? No. What is God for me right now? Oh, I think it's that. Can I invite that into my own lived experience? Can I cultivate that quality within myself? Can I invite it in through breath practices, through recitation, through conscious, dedicated awareness? And then can I express it into the world? Can I put that at the center of my life? Okay, so that ideal is attained through the breath, which is called fikr, which means we are concentrating the breath in the way that we wish. When you do that, when you attain the ideals that you wish through your own effort and dedication, then it really belongs to you. Right? It's not something that accidentally happened, that you just noticed that you're feeling really blissful and at peace today, because that doesn't put you in charge of anything. Good? Rahima is having a battle with the mosquitoes.
It's like flying around.
Oh, I just saw it. I know. We were going to be outside today, but they're on a rampage. Okay, so we're going to sing a little bit, because that's what we do. And we're going to do another beautiful melody from our friend Farhad that is, he calls it the Bedouin's Fikr. That is these 4 different concentrations that are put on the breath. But we, in our, I'm gesturing toward Rahima and toward all of you. Like, I think that we all realize that if we want to have a concentration in our thought awareness, it helps us get there by repeating it out loud multiple times. Then we create this energy around it that continues echoing by itself in our beings when we fall silent, right? So we're going to do this aloud.
Got it.
On it. Okay, so this one has a series of concentrations, starting with everybody's favorite. I'm putting it in the chat window for you. We'll start with Subhanallah. Oops. And then Alhamdulillah. I should have written this out ahead of time, but I didn't. Then this one is often neglected, but it's at the center. La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar. So Subhanallah is the glory to God, or it's also the purification that gets us started, that gets ourselves out of the way to make room for God. Alhamdulillah is the praise, the gratitude, and celebration that goes to God. Tim, again, my husband, was talking this morning about the fish being alhamdulillah, because every time we see fish jumping at sunset, because we live by a natural area with ponds, and anyway, the fish go jumping in the evenings, and we think they're probably trying to eat, but he doesn't think so. He thinks they're just praising God, and so every time they jump out of the water, they're going, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. And so today he added a piece to it that he said, so they're jumping out of the water going, Alhamdulillah, and as soon as they get out, God says, get back in here so you can breathe, and pulls them back into the water, which is exactly what happens to all of us. Okay, so that's Alhamdulillah. That'll help, right? Okay, and then La ilaha illallah is the zikr affirmation. There is nothing except the one. There never has been, there never will be, so might as well get over it. Just come back to God. That's all there is. And then Allahu Akbar is God is all the power, all of the capacity. Everything that ever has happened or could happen will always be through the capacity and the grace of God. Allahu Akbar. Okay, so Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Subhanallah, Subhanallah. was very happy to only do that once. Let's do that in a lower key. That will be much nicer for me today. We'll go la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha, la ilaha illallah, la So there are all kinds of different practices that we can do with the breath that help us attain the different planes of existence. And today we're not going to be touching into those specifically. So we're just going to reference them and tease you to come back for other Sufi circles, I guess. But a lot of the gossip practices and the shuggle practices help us attune to and aim toward different levels of awareness through either cultivating and aiming strongly in certain directions or by shutting off other directions. So both of those things work in different ways. And today we're not going to be doing that so much. We're just looking at the different aspects of breath. So the next one that we're going to go to is the centralization of the breath. That's the word that Murshid used for it. And that's the fourth of our 5 aspects of breath. Centralization, you can also use the word focus or direction. That is like, where do you want the breath to go? And send it specifically and directly there. Centering it where you wish. So this one is about, well, they're all about mastery, but this one is about navigation and determination as well. Does that make sense? That you're choosing the direction and implementing all of the attention that you need to get it there. So a lot of times this is sent to specific parts of the body. And oh good, Michael is still on here. So for all of you yoga teachers out there, probably half of you are yoga teachers out there, there are a lot of yoga practices. I don't do yoga, but people who do, you'll often hear things like, breathe into your left shoulder blade, or breathe into your right hip, or breathe into your knees, or breathe into the palms of your hands, or whatever it is. That you can actually do that. I actually am I am down with that, even though I don't like yoga. But asana, I don't like doing asana. I don't like the yoga posture practice. I should be specific when I have Michael on here. So, but we can send the breath specifically where we want it anytime. So this can be certain places in the body. It can be sending the breath into your shoulders, or sending the breath into your, I don't know, anything. But it can also be, and often in the Sufi systems of practice, is about sending it to the energy centers in the body that are called the lataif. So we're going to just touch into a couple of these things of the energy centers in the body, and also a physical body part awareness. So just right now, coming back to the breath, whatever your natural way that the breath is flowing right now, no need to change anything. The beginning point is always just noticing what's true. Okay. So, however the breath naturally is right now, I want you to see if you can send your breath into your head. So the first thing that we naturally notice is, yeah, the breath is going in and out of the lungs. You can feel that. You don't have to work on that one. Oh, maybe that's a good place to start. Okay, send the breath to your lungs. So I take it back, we're not doing the head yet. We'll just go to the lungs first. Breathing into the lungs. And then a tiny little skip will go, okay, now send the breath into your own heart. Do you feel like you can do that pretty easily? Yeah? David, I see you. Go ahead, friend.
When you're doing that, are you breathing into that, or are you breathing in and breathing out to that?
Ooh, what a lovely question. I could say, well, what are you doing with that? I'm breathing into that. But I love that.
Okay.
You can do it either way. Either way works. Yeah. There are other practices that Murshid goes through where you breathe in through a certain quality or aspect of yourself and then breathe out through that same thing also, like breathing in through the palms of your hands and breathing out through the palms of your hands. But with this one, because we're just drawing the breath in where we want it, my natural assumption was to send the breath into that area. And then the breath will come out from that area also. But if it works for you to breathe in and then to breathe out to that area, great, go with that. That's ambiguous, I'm sorry. The answer is yes. Okay, so we touched into the lungs and the heart. And then perhaps it'll be an easy thing to stretch the awareness and to bring the breath to the shoulders. Send the breath to the shoulders, into the shoulders or out to the shoulders. Does that feel accessible for you, that you can do that? I see some concentration faces and I saw one nod. So while you're exploring that, go ahead in your own awareness and choose another part of the body to send the breath to another part of your body. And just hold it there for a few breaths. I went to my belly button. Maybe you did now too. Okay, now choose a different part of the body, a different physical part of your body to send the breath to. It can be internal organs, external features. It can be parts of the skin. It can be sense organs. Anything you wish. And one more. Choose a third part of your body to send the breath to, your physical body. I'm sending my breath through my bloodstream. Okay, now we're going to shift the awareness into a couple of the lataif. That is the energy centers of the body. They're similar to the chakras, but a little bit different in the Sufi system. So let's start with the nafsia, that is the energy center that is just below your belly button. That is in the center of your belly. So I'm going to stand up just so you can see where I'm gesturing right here. So sending the breath, and it's into the center of the body at this nafsia of the lataif. And once you feel like you have sent your breath there, hold it there for several breaths, keeping that concentration. And then we'll choose a different one. Let's go to the lataif, that is the third eye. Breathing into the third eye. That's called the kafia. I'm able to focus on that one more with my physical eyes closed, if that helps you to be able to send the breath to that third eye, that penetrating awareness. And again, it's not on the surface of your forehead, it's in the center of your body. So back into the center of your awareness. Sending the breath there and then holding it. And then come back to your own natural breath. Do you feel like you were able to tune into each of those things? The areas of the body and the energy centers? Okay. So there's an extended practice that you can do with this where you're focusing on the direction of the breath, the centralization, that's Murshid's word for it, of the breath, where your breath is going according to your will. And specifically looking at, we're not going to go into this right now, but I want to just give you a couple other pieces that you can work with, of noticing where you can feel the quality and the impact, the effect of your breath in different aspects of your body. That if you touch into different aspects and feel like, well, it's very easy for me to send my breath over there, but over here there's some resistance. Either there's a feeling of denseness or constriction, and so the breath can't quite get there, then there's some work and attention that you can do to make that area of the body more receptive, to bring some softening, or just some understanding, some awareness to see what might need to shift there, if anything. So where things are more dense, where they're more delicate, more refined, what the different qualities of breath are when we send them to different parts of the body. And there's also, we can look at sending the breath through the whole body, and then working with that along with our practice of volume, of expanding that atmosphere that goes through sending the breath into the body, into the skin. You can have all of your skin, and then you can go, well, where is the edge of the skin, and where does that move into the aura of my being, that is your energy space that is beyond the skin, and sending the breath into that whole atmosphere. Okay, so you have my invitation to work with that and see what you can do with that and how it feels for you. Okay, here's the last piece. We only have about 10 minutes left, but I would like to be able to get through the fifth of these aspects so we can move on to a next thing for next month. Are you all still with me? Are you ready for another thing? Not too cooked yet? Okay. I see you nodding. All right, I have to move my reading over. So this is on the aspect of rhythm. The fifth aspect of breath is rhythm. This is another reading from Piro Murshid and Icon. Rhythm is the nature of motion, and motion is the nature of life. Life is not possible without motion, and motion is not possible without rhythm. It is rhythmic motion which keeps the whole universe going, and the same motion is the hidden secret of our lives, as we are a miniature universe within ourselves. Do you like it? I like it. Our breath is both the cause and effect of this rhythmic motion. The breath is the cause and effect of the rhythmic motion. Inhaling and exhaling is just like the pendulum of the clock. When it is regular, the clock goes on regularly. When it's slow, the clock goes slow. When it's quick, the clock goes fast. So it is with us. When our breath is rhythmic, all things go well. The mechanism of our body, the working of our mind, and the work of our feelings all are normal. Therefore, all we think, speak, and do is normal and right. When the rhythm of our breath is irregular, all illness comes. Thoughts wander, feelings are upset, and our life becomes full of confusion. All we feel, speak, and do has a bad effect. In other words, a wrong effect upon ourselves and others. Therefore, by fikr, we know what that is now, right? By fikr, the Sufi sets their breath to the proper rhythm, and when it becomes a habit by a practice done every day, the Sufi's whole life becomes orderly and regular. Because the rhythm in time becomes a habit of the breath. And while awake or asleep, the breath goes on rhythmically, keeping all pulsations in rhythm on which the health entirely depends. The rhythm, so produced by the breath, keeps the thoughts in order, the will powerful, the memory in order, the feelings normal, and thereby all one's affairs in life come into perfect and proper order. I do want to be clear because I know this comes up every single time. This does not mean that if you contract some illness, it's because you mistakenly neglected your breath. Illness does just happen. Injury happens, that we are in finite bodies in a material world where things happen and everything eventually falls apart. Everything that is manifest is susceptible to injury and change and eventual destruction. So it's not that the right rhythm of breath is going to keep you healthy and alive forever. No, but it does optimize the rhythm of your life. Is that clear? So no guilt and shame, but opportunity for mastery. Okay. Do you need to hear any of that again? You good? All right, a short practice and then a closing prayer. So we often do rhythmic breath practices with a metronome, but just as good, maybe better than a metronome is our own pulse. So we're going to come back to the pulse. If you can find this, an easy way to find it is in between these two tendons in the wrist with these two fingers, not with your thumb, because I'm at the wrong camera. Here we go. So that's a good way to find the pulse. You can also do it, some people have a strong, can feel the heartbeat through the chest wall. You can do it on your jugular vein, but it's potentially not good for your brain. So the wrist is much safer, cutting off blood supply to your brain. Okay, so don't do it, Virginia. Not a good idea. All right, so with feeling your own pulse, and then again, bringing your natural awareness to what is happening with your breath right now, start shaping your inhalation and exhalation to an even number of heartbeats. So Mersha generally recommends choosing an even number of heartbeats. So perhaps you're breathing in for 6 heartbeats and breathing out for 6 heartbeats. Or perhaps you're breathing in for 8 or 10 and breathing out for 8 or 10. So lining up the breath with the pulse. And often, after a minute or so of breathing in balanced rhythm with the heartbeat, often the pulse will slow down a little bit. So you'll end up adjusting the number of heartbeats for an inhalation and exhalation, and that's fine. You're welcome to adjust according to your comfort. There are concentrations you can put along with the heartbeat, inhalation and exhalation if you wish. If you're doing an even number of heartbeats, it's easy to put the phrase Allah, 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 Allah on the inhalation and the exhalation. Allah, 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 Allah. And you're invited to take this awareness even many steps further, literally, by walking with it. Breathing in for a certain number of heartbeats, breathing out for a certain number of heartbeats, and then walking in rhythm with the breath that's in rhythm with the heart. Aligning as many aspects of our conscious body awareness as possible. And being aware that when any aspect of these body expressions are quick, everything is quick. And when they're slow, everything is slow. And this is where Mersha is talking about if they're irregular, then they're all irregular. Okay, friends, we're going to close with the prayer Nabi. I'll put it in the chat window for you. This is part of the set of prayers that Mersha gave as midday prayers. Oh, you're welcome to join us in this prayer if you wish. A torch in the darkness, a staff during my weakness, a rock in the weariness of life. Thou, my master, make earth a paradise. Thy thought gives me unearthly joy. Thy light illuminates my life's path. Thy words inspire me with divine wisdom. I follow in thy footsteps, which lead me to the eternal goal. Comforter of the brokenhearted, support of those in need, friend of the lovers of truth. Blessed Master, thou art